Alright guys, we are angry today. At least that's what the internet seems to think. So Ubisoft dropped this 1.5 minute video, announced that they will be developing an AI to assist their scriptwriters. And obviously everyone is mad and also mocking Ubisoft for potentially developing a tool that pretty much everyone is going to use anyway. So yeah, let's hate on Ubisoft because that seems like an easy target. So let's do that. But before going into some of the misconceptions that people have been throwing around or some of the legitimate concerns of a system like this, let's first try to understand what this AI is actually trying to do in this stage. So one thing that I want to make clear off the bat, this is what they told us. This is what Ubisoft put in the video. This doesn't predict the future, and honestly, it doesn't even predict how this particular project is going to turn out. So as it was said in the video, they said that this AI is not going to be writing scripts. It's simply going to take input from the writers. It's going to generate alternate versions of that dialogue, and the scriptwriter will then go in and edit based on what context is required or how they want that dialogue to sound. Essentially, it's generating some random but related text for the scriptwriter, and now the scriptwriter doesn't really have to write entire dialogues for those things. And what they want to achieve with this AI is essentially reduce repetitive tasks for the scriptwriters. That way, they have more time to actually write something more unique. Instead of having to write 5 different versions of a dialogue for background NPCs, they can let the AI do most of the work, most of the heavy lifting. Then they can simply edit the parts that they don't like from those, or edit the parts that they need and remove the parts that they don't need, and then use those in their own scripts. So that's what this AI is trying to do. So in essence, what the AI will achieve, if it is what it is trying to be, it will help the writers generate more of these repetitive things. Like, it will help the writers go through more of these repetitive tasks and actually focus on writing better things, like doing better things in the writing department. And this is where my first take comes in. I don't think this is a bad thing. But point to be noted, as it is right now. Now I'll come to that later in the video when I talk about the concerns. Now let's talk about some of the misconceptions that people have been having. Some people have obviously been saying that, they're just going to give it a prompt and they're going to say oh, give me an Assassin's Creed story, and they're just going to get the entire script back. A, that's not how scripts are written for video games. And B, that's also not what this tool is trying to do. That's not what this tool is for. And fundamentally, the way we are using AI right now, at this point, if you have been in or around the internet, you know about ChatGPT. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and Bing has been using some version of GPT-4 now, and it's getting scary powerful now. But even now, right now, the way AI stands, it only exists to enhance our output. Like, if we are the person who is using that AI, it is simply there to enhance what we are doing. It can't really do stuff on its own. We are not in a Terminator timeline where the robot can come in and judge things for its own. Right now, where the AI stands, we are simply using it to enhance our own output. This is a tool for us. And I'll get to the concerns of that later as well. So first of all, yeah, that's not what this tool is for. The second thing, and the thing that really pissed me off, and the reason why this video exists, is the people calling the developers lazy. Is that, the developers now can be even more lazier because Ubisoft games are lazy. To that, I know not a lot of people are going to watch this video because, I am a small channel. Like, naam ke 600 subscriber, dekhta ghanta koi nahi hai. But if you are someone who is watching this video and if you're not familiar with the process, I really want you to go there and understand how complex softwares are developed. Because video games are some of the most complex softwares that are being developed right now. That doesn't mean other softwares aren't complex. Like, obviously there are many other softwares that are way more complicated than a video game. But video games are still extremely complex softwares. And not only are they softwares in the traditional sense, they still need to have a lot of things, including art. These are not just softwares which are serving a purpose for a user. is not just a problem that a user has that he's trying to solve. It's a work of art at the end of the day. And it cannot be evaluated exactly like the other softwares are evaluated. It also cannot be developed exactly like the other softwares are. It's more complicated in the sense where you need to have a human touch there. And it obviously has a human touch there. And so when I see people say that, they will probably do a better job than the writers who are already at Ubisoft, and things like Ubisoft games are broken, and the developers are lazy, they don't do their jobs, and the testers don't do their jobs, it actually does piss me off a lot. Because guess what? I worked there. Like literally at Ubisoft. So I have some context about these things, which I guess normal people won't have. But even if you are in the software industry, you pretty much know what I'm already going to say. That's not as how a software is developed. A developer doesn't just go like, I have written like 2 lines today. Bas aaj ka kaam khatam ho gaya, mere ko man nahi kar raha aaj. Like today, I just don't feel like it today. I won't work today. That's not how it works. A developer can only do what he or she is assigned. Same goes for the testers. Like the testers, as a tester, what all we did was, so for context, I was in manual testing. So what we did was we got a build of the game. We had our own use cases. We had our own test cases that we needed to run. So there were many. So I was working on like 2 or 3 different projects. We obviously had one of those was a multiplayer game. So we had like a set of test cases just based on that. Then we also had like manual testing where we were just doing our thing, trying to break the game in our own way. And in a way, you can cover a lot of these things. So this is kind of called black box testing, which again, if you are in software development, you know about these things. These are some of the things that we were doing. You know what we weren't doing? We weren't deciding the release date for games. We weren't setting the scope of the project. We weren't deciding the focus of the project. We weren't involved in any of that shit. That's not how these things work. The people who are planning the project, the people who are in charge of designing the software originally, if they screw up somewhere, that's going to get translated when you actually start making your software. And that is what is happening. The problem with Ubisoft is not that they make bad games. The problem with Ubisoft is not that their worlds are boring, honestly. The problem is the focus is off. They don't know what they should focus on. They're focusing on the wrong things. They're developing the wrong elements of the game. And that's why people are losing interest in their games. Fundamentally, a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is still one of the best games out there on the market. Yes, I am saying that, the certified Odyssey hater. But it is still one of the best made games out there. It's just that it falls flat because it loses focus on like what it wants to be. That's the problem with Ubisoft, not the writers, not the developers. And it pisses me off a lot because like I get why people are mad, but also like they are blaming the wrong people for it. And once we move on from that, now we actually get into the legitimate concerns about a move like this. Now, of course, we are in a place where, we have seen for multiple months now, like the major IT companies are going through massive layoffs where they're laying off like a significant percentage of their staff. Like they're essentially going through their workforce like Caesar went through his legions. So in an environment like this, and especially when we see something like this AI coming in, which is supposed to reduce the workload for people are genuinely concerned that, yeah, it will reduce the workload for scriptwriters, for some scriptwriters, the others will simply be out of a job. And it's a concern that even I have right now. Like I am not a scriptwriter. My ideal role would be a software developer since I've been in that industry. I have worked in that industry for a while. And also like I have a CS degree and right now I am doing a master's in scientific computing. So my 2 options are either, going into research or going into a job. And right now, the biggest concern I have is that anything I can do, the AI can probably do better than me. And so where do I stand? Like, why would a company want to hire me? And it's been bugging me for a while now because it's time, like in probably a year, I will have to go into the industry, go find a job. And it's a concern for me Because eventually, the way AI is going, like, yeah, it's a tool for people. But the only people the companies would then keep are the people who can actually use the tool effectively, and also the people who are best at understanding what the code is. Because let's talk about a software perspective, like from my perspective. Like right now, if I'm writing, say, a code, if I can just go into, say, ChatGPT and like, yeah, here's the prompt. Suppose give me a program. So for example, right now I have an assignment that I can literally just go into GPT and say like, oh, give me a program which adds 2 complex numbers. I have a program that I need to submit on Saturday. That's what I need to submit. I can literally just go into ChatGPT and say that, and it will probably just give me a C++ code. That's done, right? But now sometimes it will make errors. Sometimes it will go wrong. So what I actually need to do is to be so good that I can understand where it is going wrong instead of just being able to copy and paste it. So it's about being that good that you can actually evaluate what the AI is doing. Only those people will actually remain at their jobs. Or the people who have the potential to be like that. The people who are talented enough to be in that position, to get to that position. Only they will remain in their jobs. Because if AI can just write the code I have, and if I can't even understand, or if I can't properly debug the code it has written, then why the hell would anyone hire me? And so it's a legitimate concern. It's not just for the scriptwriters here. It's a concern for everyone who is involved in a field like this. Now, yes, some people have said that, oh, eventually AI art is going to replace like normal artists. I don't think that will happen, because AI art, the very thing about art is that art in the end of the day is an expression. AI right now is more adept at technical tasks. It's not really an artist. Like an artist makes something for a reason. It doesn't have a reason. All it is doing is mimicking what human beings are doing. Now that works for something like a ghostwriter, where essentially you are just getting a prompt to write something yourself, or you are essentially getting some lines that you are then editing yourself. Text and drawn art, or even voice, like voice lines, are very different things. Text can be edited and the entire context of that text can be changed by simply editing like 2 or 3 words. So the people who are concerned about this sounding more robotic, well, the end product is still coming from a human being. The human being is deciding whether it should sound robotic or not. That is still going to be on the scriptwriters. So yeah, I don't think real AI is really going to replace art per se, but it is definitely going to replace low-level jobs like this. It definitely will replace manual testing after a certain point of time. Like, yeah, AI still won't be able to do the things that I have done, for example, when I was testing. Like, I've thought of some really like stupid, complicated scenario where we'll probably manage to break the game. And I found a lot of bugs like that while we were developing the game. But AI doesn't necessarily need to do that, because yeah, it can run complicated things, but also running normal test cases, like we are already at a place where testing is becoming automated and manual testing will be slowly but surely phased out. Like, yes, there are advantages of manual testing, but honestly, you don't really require that level of manual testing anymore. Like from a company's perspective, like, yeah, obviously I would love that people don't get out of a job, especially a job that I myself used to do, but like, it's the sad reality of the situation. We can't really change it. The only people who can change it, who need to come up with the legislation, probably don't even know systems like this exist. Like, we are asking like 70-year-olds to understand technologies that are being developed right now. Obviously, they don't give a shit and they don't care. And I haven't seen anyone in India even talking about these things. I don't know about the countries you guys are from. Like in India, like no one is talking about these things. So yeah, this is really a reality check. Like, you need to step back and understand that if AI can do the job better than me, what am I contributing? And how can I change that? The biggest question is, how can I change that? But now looking at the positive side, it isn't necessary that Ubisoft will lay these employees off. It's not like Ubisoft is going to go like, oh, we just need 1 script writer for the work of 5 guys now because AI is efficient. So let's just remove the 4 people from the team. That's not how it works. Because having those 5 people will still give more perspectives to the writing team. It will help them develop a better narrative. It will help them develop a better, more grounded world with different perspectives. So I don't think that is a good direction to go for Ubisoft. Now I don't know what decision they will take, but ideally what you would want to do here is make sure that the scope of the project is even better. That those 5 people are still working on the project and developing an even better scope for the project. Like the background NPCs now have an even bigger library for those lines, for those voice lines. Now, I've talked about AI a lot here, and what I'm about to talk about is not technically related to this. Like it's still AI related and it's still something that video games are going to use. Now, technically what I'm about to talk is coming from a mod. So if you are someone who plays Fallout 4, there have been several mods lately where we now have fully voiced lines which are being generated by AI. So yeah, so the AI is essentially taking clips from the main character's voice lines, and it is then running it through its system and essentially voicing the lines for like quest mods in Fallout 4. And I think it's also the case in Skyrim. And that is the ultimate place where these sort of systems can go. So what do I mean by that? Now, a lot of people don't like Ubisoft games. I mean, I can understand why. I particularly am not a fan of the modern Ubisoft games, so I can definitely understand. But I would say this, Ubisoft has created one of the most innovative NPC systems in the last decade. Like Shadow of Mordor came in like 2015, right? So okay, not maybe the decade, in the last 8 years then. And that game was Watch Dogs Legion. Now, Watch Dogs Legion has its own missteps, because in my opinion, having randomly generated characters be your main protagonist isn't the best idea, particularly because the system is not developed enough. Like it was very much a first attempt at that technology. But if you actually play the game, and I would highly recommend people to play the game, if you actually play the game, if you look at the systems that are working inside the game, every NPC that is being generated has their own traits, like has an archetype of, first of all, because they can be a construction worker, they can be an assassin, things like that. They have various archetypes. They can just be normal NPCs that don't follow any archetypes. They're also a case. Then they have their own personal histories, things that they are going to do, their own timelines in the world, timelines that they adhere to. Like if they say that if they are going to be at 7 p.m, they are going to be there, they are going to be there. Everything is being tracked inside the game. Plus you get to mess with these NPCs. You get to do these various quests. You can do these various generated things in the world to recruit these NPCs on your side and then play as them. I don't think people really understand the sheer amount of work that went into a system like this. This system is magnificent. Like, yes, it didn't quite come together in the game. Like they could have done things better, and especially if you actually, get the season pass and play the game with Aiden Pierce, the game feels a lot better because you actually have a proper, real protagonist who doesn't really feel like robotic. A lot of protagonists feel robotic because they were, at the end of the day, the appearance and the voice, even the voice was tuned a little bit by the AI. And sometimes there can be a mismatch between the voice and the body. Like, the guy is the whitest looking guy ever and he sounds like a Jamaican. So yeah, there are things that didn't quite work, but the system underneath that is exceptional. And I would highly recommend people to look into it. Like, not just play the game, just look into that system. That is the future of where NPCs can go. Now imagine something like Ubisoft's Ghostwriter AI helping out. So people can now have multiple different versions of that dialogue, which are not the same. Like the NPCs won't be repeating the same line. People won't have to work that hard to generate that many dialogues. So that means there is a varied amount of conversation going on, but still giving the same context to people. And now that we are starting to really look into the voice of AI, now that we have that, the one concern again is the job replacement that I've talked about. It's applicable even for voice actors because they now have to record lesser number of lines, but AI will still be taking over for them. So obviously they won't get paid enough, and some people just won't get a job at all. So while this is concerning, the future is definitely leaning towards AI, and it's not just Ubisoft that will do that. Many companies are going to follow suit. It's just that Ubisoft is showing off the systems that they are developing. And the things like the Watch Dogs NPC system that Ubisoft has already made, things like the Ghostwriter AI that Ubisoft is currently making, I don't see these as net negative things. This will definitely help make better games in the future, even if Ubisoft is not the ones making better games. Ubisoft is just making these systems and doing the basic Ubisoft half-baked thing. But someone is going to pick these things up. Someone is going to take these systems and actually make them properly playable. That is the game that I'm actually waiting for. And as for Ubisoft, if they can get their act together, I still think Ubisoft can make some of the best games ever. They have done that in the past. It's not like Ubisoft has suddenly lost all their talent. It's just that their management is kind of stupid. So yeah, while this is concerning from a lot of perspectives, especially without proper legislation, but then again, I am not someone who makes laws. I'm someone who's going to join the workforce in like a year. To be fair, I have worked before. I'm going to rejoin the workforce in a year. So for me, these are concerns that I share myself. But also, this is something we can't run away from. Like at this point, AI is here. It's going to stay. And if someone decides not to use AI, that's to your own detriment. Like right now, if I don't use ChatGPT, if I don't use things like these, that's my own detriment in a way. But in a way, it also enhances my skills. If I'm not dependent on it, if I can still make my own stuff, at least I understand the things better. At least I understand things to a point where I can actually make my own code, or at least understand what the hell they are writing. So yeah, these are genuine concerns, yes, but also Ubisoft is not to blame for this. Ubisoft is just doing what anyone else would do. So that's my take on this. Do let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. And you know the usual spiel, like, subscribe, things like that. So yeah, that's what I think, and I will leave you guys in peace.